Aviation Fin UK, runway 01, clear for takeoff.
Hello there, and welcome to another video by the Aviation Sim UK team. So today, what we're going to be discussing is the different types of Squawk codes. The Squawk code is just 4 randomly generated numbers that come out of thin air between 0 and 7, and thus gives you a Squawk code. However, there is more to Squawk codes than meets the eye. The uses of Squawk codes are there for identification of aircraft, and that'll be discussed in more detail in a later video. You've also got different types of Squawk codes which indicate different things to the controller. So one type of Squawk code is known as a local Squawk. These used to be allocated to what was deemed local flights. However, as general aviation aircraft have got better, they're no longer known as local flights. So these codes are typically used by approach units when an aircraft is going to be handled by the approach unit and is typically going to remain outside of controlled airspace, or is just going to remain inside the control zone and controlled area. Local Squawks help identify an aircraft, and it lets us know who is handling the aircraft outside of controlled airspace. So there's, for each approach unit, a defined set of Squawks that approach unit can use for the identification of aircraft outside controlled airspace. And this helps other control units know who to talk to in case of an aircraft breaching controlled airspace, for example. Or for a radar control handover, for example, the aircraft is talking to Gatwick and is going to Farnborough, they could do a radar control handover. So that's the use of local Squawks. You've also got, and you've included in this, is flight plan Squawks, which are, I'm going to say, normal Squawks. These are Squawk codes designated to aircraft flying a flight plan, and these help identify said aircraft. Now, you've also got the emergency Squawks. So these are 3 specific Squawks that you use for emergency situations, which allow the controller to know what's going on in the aircraft. So, for example, an aircraft hijacking. So, in an aircraft hijacking, the one thing that you do not want the pilots to do is sit there on the radio when the hijackers are in the cockpit and say, "My aircraft's been hijacked." That would be stupid and result in the death of the pilots. So, instead, the pilots will squawk 7500, and this lets the controller look at the aircraft, see the squawk, and go, he's been hijacked. And then they can scramble the jets and do the QRA stuff. The next squawk code is 7600. Now, 7600 is radio failure. So this will let the controller know that the aircraft's radios have failed. So one example that I saw was an aircraft, it was somewhere in America, had a jammed push to talk and couldn't coordinate with talk to the controller. So therefore couldn't listen to the controller either. So they squawked 7600 to let the controller know that their radios have failed. It also allowed the controller to know that the aircraft was adopting the radio failure procedures. The last squawk code is one of the most common ones. Well, I say common, well-known codes, which is 7700 or 7700. This is the emergency squawk code. Now, on a radar screen, this will make the aircraft come up with a little red line, probably saying emergency. This allows the controller to know that the aircraft is, in fact, in an emergency. This allows the controller to sort the aircraft out and help it in any way possible. The last type of squawk I'm going to cover is the Conspicuity squawk. So, this has several different purposes, okay? So, the Conspicuity squawk can allow ATC to know that an aircraft outside of CAS is outside CAS and not talking to anyone. And it also allows them to know their flight rules. So, for example, VFR aircraft outside of CAS will squawk 7000, and IFR aircraft outside of CAS will squawk 2000. The reason for this is the result of the Class Echo airspace being brought in around Farnborough. Because IFR aircraft have to talk to the controller, whereas VFR aircraft don't have to talk to them. Okay, Conspicuity squawks can also be used by controllers to allow other controllers to know they're dealing with the aircraft outside CAS. These aircraft on Conspicuity Squawks cannot be identified. The Conspicuity Squawk just lets controllers know that the aircraft is listening in and talking to that controller, say for coordination purposes. There's other types of squawk codes as well, like the listening squawk, which means that an aircraft is listening in to an approach controller's frequency, which means that controllers can talk to each other a lot quicker or talk to the aircraft, and they don't have to call blind guessing whether the aircraft's on the frequency. So, for example, going to my favourite aerodrome, Biggin Hill, 7047 is Biggin Hill's Conspicuity Squawk. So this lets Gatwick, Farnborough, Heathrow, Thames City know that those aircraft that are remaining outside of controlled airspace are being handled by Biggin Hill. Because Biggin Hill doesn't have a radar and can't identify them. The other type of squawks is special squawks. So, these squawks dictate if an aircraft is doing a special procedure that needs different procedures. So, 0000. This is the squawk code that ATC will assign an aircraft if they're having a Mode Charlie failure. So if their Mode Charlie readout they report to the controller doesn't match what they're flying, the controller will tell them to squawk 0000 to indicate a Mode Charlie failure. This means the controller cannot identify the aircraft by altitude, and therefore has to give horizontal separation, cannot rely on vertical separation. 0033 indicates parachute dropping. So if you can think about it, when people jump out of a plane, they'll squawk 0033 to tell the controller to keep everyone else away from that aircraft from below it because there's people jumping. 1000 is a squawk code used for Mode Sierra identification instead of Mode Alpha. So typically this isn't used in the UK as much because we tend to rely on the Mode Alpha. But other countries like Amsterdam and France are relying a lot more on Mode Sierra identification. And this will be covered in a lot more detail in future videos. 7001. So this is the squawk code used when a military jet decides to climb out from a low-level route suddenly. So this lets the controller know not to put aircraft above it because it's going to be climbing out. So if they're flying through Wales, I can't remember what the route's called now, but through the mountains, there's a fast pass there that they use, so it'll let the controller know just in case. 7004 is used in aerobatics and displays. So this lets the controller know that the aircraft's probably going to be doing loop-the-loops, barrel rolls, and whatever else they do. So that's why they'll squawk that. 7400 is for a unmanned aerial vehicle that's lost contact and is probably going rogue, flying around somewhere. So you've got squawks for HEMS, so the medics that fly in the helicopters, and the police. However, radar can ask them to squawk a different code for identification purposes. And these are usually detailed in more local procedures as opposed to the AIP. So, that brings an end to this little talk. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Remember to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Remember to like us on Facebook. We've got an Instagram, Twitter as well. You can follow us on those. We've got our website and our Discord as well, so feel free to join us on either of those two. And we can, it's a friendly little area that you can have a chat with. Hopefully we'll see you for the next video. And remember, aviate, navigate, and communicate. Take care.